So earlier we were doing a video talking about Jonathan's birth story, and we got interrupted because we have 4 kids. So we're continuing. Don't fall asleep because I'm tickling your neck.
Just continue.
I'm not going to tickle your neck. So we're going to rewind a little bit and just start from when my contraction started. It was
Let's
about...
just go to the hospital.
Shh.
We already did all this.
It was at 10:30 at night. I'm just going to do a little recap. 10:30 at night. My contractions started. And they went from like no pain to... Painful. And...
we got in bed to take a nap.
Yeah.
And Melissa got in the shower to take a shower because she had just gone for a walk apparently, and Grandma Margie was in bed. Everyone was asleep except for the 2 of us. Melissa said, "Go to sleep, Adam, so you're ready to go to the hospital." So I attempted to go to sleep, and then she laid down next to me, and she was experiencing contractions, and they were painful enough that she decided to share that pain with me by trying to transfer it like the giver and squeeze it into my arm. So after 15 minutes of that, I said, "We can go to the hospital." She said, "Woohoo!" And we got our stuff, got in the car, and drove to the hospital.
So we got to the hospital around 10:50.
10:45, 10:50, something like that.
We walked up to... or we went into the maternity...
Emergency room.
Emergency room.
The main entrance was closed.
They offered me a wheelchair, but I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to be dramatic.
She didn't want to be embarrassing.
I didn't want to embarrass myself or Adam.
I would not be embarrassed. I would have been excited to push.
And we got up to the top, and the lady said... or we walked into the hall in labor and delivery, and she said, "Oh, welcome. Are you here for an induction?" Because apparently I didn't look like I was in any distress or anything. And I said...
or pregnant either, apparently.
I said, "No, I'm
here to have a baby.
Here to have a baby. I'm in labor." I was pretty calm and elated and couldn't wait to have a baby. And she said, "Oh, has your water broken?" And I said, "No." Or no, we didn't say anything. We didn't have time to say anything.
It broke at that moment.
And the water broke at that moment.
And a big mess on the ground. And
Adam was embarrassed.
Like Melissa.
He's still embarrassed that I have
self-control.
My shoes that my water broke on. Even though I clean them, he gets grossed out every time I wear them.
Placenta shoes.
So...
I guess the placenta didn't go on your shoes, but...
yeah. Anyway. So, the minute my water broke... my pain went from a 5 to about a 9.
So it increased.
Thank you. Thanks for that. And we went over, and Adam started checking me into the hospital. At this point, it was about 10:58, would you say?
I think I wrote 10:59 on the check-in sheet.
And I was gripping
I didn't
the
even
counter.
get to finish it.
I was gripping the counter in like a death grip. And the ridiculous lady was telling me to breathe, and I was like, "Shut your face, don't tell me to breathe. I'm in a lot of pain."
She didn't say this. She didn't say anything. She was like, oh, it hurt.
I was just in complete... I was in the zone. I was in the zone. So then we walk into the room, and I need Adam to help me out with this part because I was...
So we get to the room.
Completely...
and they don't even have a room ready for us. Melissa just goes over to the table, and she's holding onto the table, and they're trying to get the bed out of the room because they don't have the right type of bed. Melissa is holding onto the table. They're asking her questions like, "Oh, are you in labor? Oh, your water broke." Things that are very obvious, but they don't know this information because we haven't really checked in. And Melissa starts kind of screaming, but very...
I don't remember this part.
She was very distressed and said, "I feel him coming. I feel his head."
So at
and
this
they're
point...
like, "Don't push. Don't push. How many children have you had?" And she says, "Well, this is my 4th." And they're like, "Holy crap. We need to speed things up because apparently if you're on your 1st child, you don't know what you're talking about. But if you're on your 4th, you're a pro."
So I'm like completely in the zone. I don't know any of this that's going on. I had my eyes closed. I was very focused on the pain and what I knew I was about to do. And I knew that I wasn't going to get an epidural. I knew that he was coming right now.
So the nurses rushed over. We helped her get out of her yucky clothes because she had an accident in them.
Oh, gosh.
And
put a dressing gown.
Put a gown on.
And what?
A hospital gown. And we moved her over to the bed. And once she showed the nurses, they could see his head was already there.
She said, "Oh, he's at a station 3," which I didn't know what that meant. I looked it up later, and his head was coming out of me.
Because the only station we listen to in this family is NPR.
Stupid.
And that's station 1.
So, all I remember. Okay, I'll tell what I remember. I remember laying flat on my back, which is inaccurate according to Adam, and I believe Adam. I remember laying flat on my back, looking at, feeling like I was completely on my back and trying to push him out that way. And I remember feeling him come out. I don't even know if I pushed. I'm sure my body was pushing, but I was not conscious of any effort on my part. He came out in 2 pushes, I guess. His head came out, I felt his head come out, and then I felt his body come out in a matter of seconds. Now, we looked back at the text messages, and 11:02 was when we got in the room, and Adam texted our families and said, "Her water broke, he's coming tonight." And then at 11:06, he was here. He had been born. And what I remember is looking over, and I saw Adam. He had his head in his hands, and he was looking like he couldn't believe what just happened.
Like Home Alone.
No, oh my gosh, what just happened? Our kids are trying to get in our room now. I didn't remember where Adam was. I didn't know where Adam was, but he said that I'd reached out my arm when they got, or my hand to him, and looked for him, and he came and grabbed my hand. So when Jonathan was born, we were holding hands. There were 2 nurses on either side of me and one ready to catch him. It was pretty crazy. I don't know if Adam has anything else to add to that, but basically from the time my first painful contraction began to the moment he was born, it was about, let's say, 45 minutes. Do you have anything to add?
To what?
The birth story.
Are we done talking about it?
Basically.
She wasn't laying down. She was sitting up because they didn't have time to recline the bed. And normally they don't recline the bed anyway. She's kind of inclined. But she got on the bed. I was really not knowing what was going on, and I kind of stood off in the corner of the room. And normally I take Melissa's left leg and help hold it while she pushes, but I didn't have time for that. They didn't have time for that because Jonathan was coming out when she sat down on the bed, and she pushed twice. She was scared. You could see that she was visibly scared about the situation. And
were you scared?
I just was shocked as to what was going on. I was like, sweet, no epidurals, saved us some money.
Thanks, Obama.
Yeah. And Melissa was looking for me, and she found me, and she reached out with her left hand, and I came over and I grabbed her left hand and stood by the bed, up near her shoulders, and held on to her. She squeezed my hand a few times, she pushed twice, and Jonathan was born. And he was born a lot faster than they were expecting, and it seemed like initially they were a little concerned about his well-being because he didn't come out crying or anything. So
He didn't cry for a little bit.
they immediately took him over to the baby station, whatever that thing is called, the incubator. I don't know.
Called an incubator.
It looks like an incubator. It has that heat thing where they put the Big Macs.
He was 8 pounds,
I don't know
10
how big he
ounces.
was. I don't know how big any of our kids were.
8 pounds, 10 ounces.
So the biggest, I think.
He was the same as Sam.
Die. But yeah, it was one of those moments where I was just in awe at what Melissa was able to do. Not because it saved us money, but because it was just amazing. It was so different than all the other experiences that we had had that took several hours of waiting for her body to be ready to go. Or having to just hold on, like with Hannah, how you were ready to give birth, but we wanted to wait until our moms arrived.
It was crazy because basically an hour before, nothing was really happening. We were not thinking a baby was coming that night. And then he was there. Good times. The end.